Thanks very much. April Fool's Day, Ballycastle, County Antrim. I was late. Later than my brother, later than my sisters. I was just taking my time. Inside my egg, I was snug and warm. I was different from the word go and didn't even know it, floating in an egg-shaped daydream. As I said, I was late, 13 days to be exact. Quack, I quacked. What is that, they said. What? Who? How? Many wondered and many said nothing. The silence was full of question marks. We all got older, but things didn't change. I remained grey and ugly to my family. So when it came to going to school, I thought that things would be different. "What beautiful children, Mrs. Duck," said our teacher. "And is that wee special one yours?" She dug a little deeper. "Yes, a wee surprise," said my mother. Then there was a pause. Was she ashamed of me? Embarrassed? I could tell. My young eyes could see through all that silence. The days passed. Things didn't get any easier at school or at home. I was either being pecked at home or bullied at school. Even my relations seemed to treat me differently. Adults are so obvious, I thought. It's like I'm invisible. My aunts and uncles smiled at my brother and sisters, then looked at me like I was poo on the heel of someone else's shoe. I started to sink as everyone else around me seemed to soar. I was grey and my world seemed blue. Almost everything I did seemed wrong. I was like a half-filled balloon trailing along the ground. I was alone. I was behind in school. Everyone's world rushed ahead without me. And to top it all, I was ugly and stupid. I was on the edge of everything, a hedgeling. June 21st, the longest day. I was on my way home from school when I met two older ducks, the Drake brothers. I was so ugly that they thought I was cool. They were on their way to a thrash metal concert in Belfast. Did I want to come? It's hard to beat a good thrashing. Did I want to come, they said, as their ugly duck metal mascot. But before I could answer, there was a screaming sound. Ah! Was it a banshee, I thought? It was the screeching of brakes, and my new friends, the Drakes, were squashed duck surprise. A number 97 at our Chinese takeaway. Flattened by a heating oil delivery lorry. They looked all egg foo young. In my horror, I ran away. I ran and ran and ran. The only people who thought I was okay were painting the town red. Titty bread, dead. I reached the outskirts of town, but I just kept going. I climbed and climbed and climbed to the top of Knocklade. And there I stopped by the big cairn, Carntrua. I'm a bit like you, I thought. Isolated, hard to reach, and lost in the mist. So there I slept amongst the rocks, the gorse, and the wind. But I wasn't alone. The mountain looked after me, kept me safe. On my way down the next day, I met Billy and the wild ducks. They were bikers. They migrated up the north coast every summer. They looked pretty rough themselves. So I thought I would ask them for help, but they said I was too ugly even for them. But they did let me hang around that summer, saying not to get any ideas about their girlfriends. Sure, I was just a young fella. I had no interest in leather. control yourself. I was now a runaway. Billy and the Wild Ducks gave me an old tent and fed me on beans, beer, and buttered toast. It tasted funny and took my head for a spin. They laughed at me a lot. But when the summer was over, they sped away south. No one had room for me on their bikes anymore. It was autumn now. The golden leaves were starting to fall. So I moved down the hill. I lived off the scraps from the takeaways and the pubs and the shops. And in the alleyways amongst the bins, I lived amongst the rats and the fox. That's the best fox impression I've ever heard, though it was hard to tell. I think it was a male or a very disgruntled female. One bright October morning, yes, this is, yeah. Brendan's going to experiment. One bright October morning, I was swimming and diving near the harbour when I heard a sound away off near Fairhead. 3 birds were flying low over the water. I had never seen anything like them. They were amazing. Their sound, the way they moved. I called to them, and the most mournful sound came up out of me. It was as if I had taken my heart to fly like a kite for the first time and catch their attention. The birds circled for a while, looking for where my call had come from. But I was too frightened and hid in the reeds. That was lovely. They might have attacked me for being too ugly. "Look at the swans, Mummy," called a little girl on the beach. She reached up and her mother took her hand. And together they watched the most beautiful thing I had ever seen in my short life. 3 magical swans. November 1st, Samhain came and went. The winter was grim, but I passed my time reading the pages of old newspapers. I lived in a rusty old coal bunker up behind Ann Street, and I watched cable TV without subscription. Through the windows of the pubs, I didn't even have a security number. It was cold, but what kept me warm was the memory of the 3 swans. Just before Christmas, there was no or little food about. The coal bunker was full, so I moved in with an old hippie called Angela. As you do. She lived in her caravan with a cat and a chicken. But when the cat told me that they always ate duck on New Year's Day, well, I decided to only stay until December 31st and then do a runner. February the 1st arrived in bulk, and on St. Bridget's Day, I signed on the dole. My social worker promised me a bigger coal bunker with benefits. But my benefits officer said that I would be, and I quote, "I would be too hard to employ as there were no ugly shops in Ballycastle, and had I thought of a career with Moy Park chickens." It was April 1st once more, and it was my birthday when I moved back to the coal bunker with the cat and the chicken. They had been made homeless when the gas cooker had blown up at Angela's caravan on New Year's Eve. The police only found a foot, a pair of false teeth, some amber beads, and a caftan coat on the roof of the central bar. I always thought it was funny, though, how the cat managed to rescue Angela's digibox, the plasma TV, and all her computer games. Just occasionally, I was allowed to watch the Nature Channel. Underneath it all, I felt I was different from the cat and the chicken. They just went on and on and on about eggs, cat food, sport, and soaps. And the cat smoked 60 a day. There must be more to life than Emmerdale, I thought, as I went for a swim near the ferry terminal. It was the 1st of May, Beltane, and for the first time in ages, I felt good. I took off my winter coat and I slipped into the water. I was transformed by the light. I beat my wings and I skimmed across the water like an Olympic athlete. This surprised me, as I always used to be last on sports day. In the distance, a bell rang in the town, and it was then that I heard that beautiful sound again. It was as if they were calling just for me. That sounded very like a ringtone. I don't recognize the number. It was as if they were calling just for me. That was beautiful. Is there any more?
Yeah, just keep talking.
For up above me were the 3 magical swans with their long necks and their powerful wings. I was out in the open. I was a sitting duck. That's when it all got a bit scary. I thought they were going to kill me. The 3 of them. I didn't stand a chance. They came at me, splashing through the water, until they were right on top of me. "What's with the disguise?" said the biggest swan. He was from North Belfast. "Are you ashamed of being a swan?" "Hey, are you having me on?" I said. I was really scared now. I thought they were going to slap me about a bit, you see. "Look down," said the swan. I looked down, waiting to be hit as usual, and the shades fell away from my eyes. Then I saw someone who looked a bit like me, looking up from the water. It was me. I was a swan. Me, a swan. "Look, Mummy," I heard the same little girl say. The swans have come back, and now there's 4 of them. And look at that one, Mummy. Isn't he the most beautiful one of all? I raised my head, and I called with all my new voice to the sand and the sea and the sky at Ballycastle. The first time in my life, I could see who I was. I was having a swan moment. And we took to the air, and I flew for the first time over the harbour, over the streets and the fields, swooping across the main street with everyone watching, up to Knocklade, high up through the mist. Then we turned out to the shining water, to the Sea of Moyle, my brothers and sister and me, the 4 swans together once more. The end. Thanks for listening.
Don't even go there.
And that was totally unrehearsed. And I'd forgotten to mention to Brendan about that. And can we give this man a big round of applause? Thank you. Especially for that ringtone. That was great. Thanks, I really appreciate that.